Hello. I think our first introduction today needs to go to Phil. Phil's our little puppy. We actually have 4 total. He's maybe not a puppy, he is a year old. But he has to be in my arms today so that he doesn't cause any trouble around the house. He likes to poop. So I'm just gonna hold him today for today's video. He's usually fairly calm unless you're throwing his ball, so I think he'll be nice and quiet for us. But for those of you who don't know, this is part 3 of a 4-part video series I'm doing on my journey into coaching and how I got to where I am today. And so this is part 3, as I said. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts, go ahead and check them out. In the first one, I share how I came to coaching. And then in the second one, I kind of share how it all fell apart as I started in coaching. And it was a lot harder than I anticipated it being. So today in part 3, I just want to share with you about how I turned that all around. You know, what was the catalyst and what changed? And so what was really the big catalyst was I was sitting in misery, sitting in debt, dealing with what felt like a failing marriage at the time. Spoiler alert, it's it's a saved marriage now, but I was dealing with all of this stress, and I kept trying to push with the masculine energy, right? I kept trying to hustle, and nothing was working. And I kept thinking, okay, well, maybe if I invest a little bit more and my sales funnel gets fancier or gets better copy. It was just all these sort of things. Well, maybe I need to tweak my enrollment process so that I get more sales calls because, right, it's just a numbers game. That's what they teach you, is it's a numbers game. And if you can just get so many calls and then you can learn to enroll so many clients from said number of calls, then you just have to get, you know, that equation working. And it wasn't. And so I was totally stressed, and like I said, in debt, but I decided to work with a new coach. I decided to invest anyway on credit. Thank God I still had a little bit left. And it was a great investment for me. At the time, it was a huge shift for me because I had spent so much of my life, like, I don't know, at least 90% of my life, if not better, in masculine energy. Just achieving, just pushing forward, doing. And what I needed to learn how to do was be in that feminine energy to relax and receive. And that's exactly what this intuitive coach did for me. And it was just an amazing journey. The part that I really want to share with you, because there's so much I could share about her and how she helped me recognize my gift of intuition and develop it. She introduced me to my angels and guides, all these things that I didn't even realize I had a knack for my entire life, because every time they would come up, I would kind of push them away for different reasons. But what I really want to share with you is about happiness. You can tell from my branding, Happiness and Heals, that happiness matters so much more to me than anything else, really. Like, it's the one feeling that I'm always aiming for. And she showed me how to be happy. I remember one of the first things she asked me to do was to write a list of the things that made me happy, and then go do as many of those things as I felt called to do, and just try to stay in the vibration of happiness as much as I could. And you know what? As soon as I got off that call and I sat down to write that list, I couldn't think of a damn thing. There was nothing I could think of to put down there. I didn't know what made me happy. And that was when I finally realized that I had been living my life for everyone else. In my last video, I shared about the formula A plus B equals C. Well, for me, it was, if you told me what A plus B were and I delivered C for you, you were happy and you praised me. You praised me and you loved me and you accepted me. And that's what I was living for. I wasn't living for my own authenticity. I wasn't living for my own happiness. I wasn't living for the pure joy of living. I was living so that I could receive praise from other people. And that had to end. And that's exactly what this coach helped me walk through, was discovering me, discovering what makes me happy, taking a step back from pushing forward and just allowing me to be the focus and not the business, and trusting that everything else would continue to fall into place. And I know that sounds beautiful, and I'm sure some of you are following me because you want to experience this yourselves, right? Because this is what I teach now, in my own version, of course, but this is what I teach because it was so hugely impactful in my own life, and I love it. I love everything about it. But at the time, it was painful. At the time, it was hard because I didn't know me. I didn't know me, and it was depressing just to realize that I didn't know me. And then it was really hard to start learning how to put myself first, how to make my own happiness a priority, how to look at my husband and say, no, you know what? I don't want to go to the movies with you tonight. Tonight, I want to sit in a hot bath and I want to journal. Or tonight, I want to eat brownies by myself. Or whatever it was, you know? Like, it was hard. And it was even harder to tell my mom or my dad no to something that I didn't want to do. Because, I mean, you're taught your whole life to obey your parents. And even though that doesn't really count as obeying, it kind of translates into it as you get older, right? And it was hard. It was hard to be like, no, I don't want to go shopping today. Of course, I found more tactful ways to say it and whatever, but I was so afraid. I was afraid that all of these people were going to hate me and not love me, and then I was going to be abandoned and left alone, and that's a huge, strong fear. But I'm happy to tell you that I've worked through it all. And that was a huge, huge turning point in my business, because all of a sudden I got to show up in my business as who I really am. I didn't have to show up as the person with the mask that was the person who got these degrees and could explain to you why I was worthy of being your coach. The person who had to show up and display their credentials so that I could show you why I was worth investing in. Which, by the way, I no longer believe you're investing in me. I believe that you're investing in yourself and you're choosing me as the vessel to help you with that. But at the time, that was my belief. And I was able to shift that by learning about the divine masculine and learning about the divine feminine, and balancing all of this in my life in a way that worked for me, that worked for my family, that worked for my business. And all of a sudden, business became fun. And people could tell that, right? And so that started to transform my business as well as my home life. And I'll be completely honest, it transformed my home life first. So this is not like the quick fix that's like, oh my God, I'm $10,000 in debt, and if I don't have $2,000 by tomorrow, like, this isn't your quick fix at all. But it did happen over the course of months, and the transformation started happening immediately. But like, the entire process, right, took months. It took time for me to say yes to myself. And there was many times where I didn't even realize I was saying no to myself, or not making myself a priority, or not doing the things that made me happy, right? And my coach would have to look at me and say that. She'd have to remind me, hey, Sarah, go do something that makes you happy. Hey, Sarah, don't book a sales call today. Today is a day for you. Do some energy work on yourself. Whatever it was. And she had to be there to tell me that it was okay. She had to be there to support me when I was like, because every part of my being was saying, you need to go make money. You're in business. Your mother-in-law is watching your kids right now, and she's watching you so that you can, watching them so that you can work. She's not watching them so that you can go have a spa day, for crying out loud. But you know what? She was watching them for me. We ended up having a conversation through, after I had gone through a few months of this, and I admitted to her, I said, you know what? Sometimes when you have the kids, I take naps because I'm just so tired. And I started telling her, I said, you know, sometimes I go and I trade energy work with a friend who does the same thing as me. And we started having this conversation, and she looked at me and she said, Sarah, she said, I watch your kids my grandkids, right? I watch your kids because I love them and I love seeing them, and I'm so excited that I get to be a part of their life. I don't care what you do while they're with me. And I'm about to cry here because it just filled my heart with so much love to know that while I was pursuing something I cared so deeply about, that the people I loved the most in the world were being cared for so deeply, right? Like, one of the things moms often have to deal with is the guilt of having someone else watch their kids while they pursue their passion. And I didn't have to do that anymore. I didn't have to have that guilt because I knew that my children were being totally loved and cared for. They were not a burden to anyone. And it was so freeing, and it was so wonderful and magical, and it has really brought us closer, me and my mother-in-law. And just an inside fun fact is that she's a generator, so it makes so much sense that she has that much energy to chase my little manifesting generators around, while I, as the manifester, manifest and put these huge spurts of energy into my business and then need to rest and relax, and she totally gets it, and I appreciate it so much. And so I've gotten off on a little bit of a tangent, but that is really what I wanted to share with you today in this part 3 video, was how everything in my life really started turning around when I started to recognize that I had to put myself first, that I needed to balance these energies in my life, that I needed to focus on my spirituality and mindset and personal development, because it was the foundation. It was the foundation for everything. So, join me soon for the next video, the final part in this 4-part series, where I basically share with you the celebration and where it's come to today.